the Portland-Milwaukee light rail line, Trimet has impacts from that project. And one of the key impacts is that two of the facilities will actually not exist after the alignment is in place. That's the Holgate Plaza, which released some substantial amounts of office space for operations staff, as well as our facilities management building. And it will be important for us to make sure that some of those operations staff are physically adjacent to the main Center Street operations base when we're done with this. In addition, the Operations Control Center, which many of you have visited, which is currently out at Ruby Junction in Gresham, is at capacity and can't expand to accommodate the Portland-Milwaukee light rail project. And as you know, our light rail project or system will be running to 60 miles with that project when it opens in 2015. So besides those impacts, and just like every other business we're working with along the line, the project provides some really important opportunities, and one that I think we wouldn't otherwise have. And so we call this opportunity Moving Together, which is it brings related Trimet work groups and divisions together in two major areas. And just by way of background, literally a decade ago, an internal study concluded that the best way to have our bus dispatch and rail control functions would be to co-locate them together at the Center Street operations base. That was not possible at the time because of the costs of facility improvement required to accommodate that. And while we were able to bring them together at Ruby Junction, we did that in a fairly inexpensive way, and we're crowded together, and that's part of the physical problem that we have right now. So the project actually gives us the opportunity with project support to actually create that long-term vision of operations control, our call center, and our rail control center all in one place and on the fourth floor of the Center Street operations building. And then it also allows us to perhaps move the operations staff that are now adjacent in the Holgate Plaza into the Center Street building. That creates a second opportunity because when you move all those people into the Center Street building, some people don't fit. And so then it allowed us to take those functions and move them together into one lease space rather than the number of different lease spaces that we have around the region. And I would also say that as we began this, this was primarily focused on efficiencies and effectiveness, which I think we've maintained, but the third criteria, because of where we are financially, is cost effectiveness. And so we needed to make sure that we have the lowest cost solutions moving forward, and I believe the package of resolutions do accomplish the lowest cost solution for the agency moving ahead. I wanted to make sure that Dan had a chance to review, and you do have a copy of a PowerPoint that he'll go through real quickly to sort of illustrate physically the issues that are involved here. So Dan?
Good morning, Mr. Board President, members of the board. A lot of what Neil just said is the content of this brief PowerPoint show. I'll go through it pretty quickly. We had originally intended to go through a pretty detailed briefing at your regularly scheduled briefing for this month, but because we had to reprogram that for other business, we didn't have a chance to do that insofar as the public has been concerned. Now you all have had the opportunity to look at this through individual briefings, but before we talk about the 4 specific transactions, I just wanted to quickly go through this program and talk about kind of the key features of what this total moving together project is all about. So next slide, please. This is a map showing the 4 properties within Trimet's utilization that are part of this program. See if I can get this to work. This is our Ruby Junction facility out here in the eastern edge of our district. Currently, that's where our Operations Control Center is. This building here is in the Lloyd District. It's a leased space that is at Holiday Street, used by the Capital Projects Group. And there are 2 buildings here down at the Trimet headquarters area on Southeast 17th Avenue. Trimet's main building, our administration building, and our bus garage. And then just down the street at 17th and Holgate is another leased facility where we house our operations training and safety and security folks. So those are the 4 properties that are involved in this overall change. This is a picture of the Operations Command Center out of Ruby. I think you've all been there. This is really the brain of our Trimet operations. It's a 24/7 facility where we maintain communications and oversight of all the buses and trains on the system. Next slide, please. And this is an overview of the area along 17th Avenue from north at this end to south. This is the Trimet main headquarters building on 17th, and this is the location of the Holgate Plaza. Now, through this stretch of 17th, the expansion of the road to accommodate the added light rail is all on the west side here. So some of the buildings and parking facilities along here are being removed by the project. So overall, this requires us to do two things as a result of the project. One, we would have to expand the Operations Control Center. And two, we'd have to relocate those Holgate folks to another place close to Center Street, since they're so integrally linked to our operations aspect. Our default on this sort of thing in the past, if we'd done what we've always done before, would have been to simply either expand the building at Ruby or build a new building to accommodate the increased Operations Control Center. We've done that in the past. We've continued to expand. It's now getting very difficult to do that any further. And frankly, the space out there as a maintenance facility is very valuable to be a maintenance facility more so than Operations Control Center. Another problem we had was that Holgate Plaza area is one of the few places in that part of town near Center Street that has a suitable lease facility for operations folks. So we took a look at all these sort of properties together and saw this as an opportunity to make some improvements in the way our facilities work and actually get some cost benefit from Trimet at the same time. So what we came up with, next slide please, was to basically change the use of the Center Street building from a administrative and operations combined headquarters to an operations command center. So what we want to do is bring the Operation Command Center into the 4th floor of this building, and also bring in safety and security and the training from Holgate into this building, and also bring in the call center, which is currently at Holiday Street, into this building. That gives us a combined Operations Command Center that has all of those linkages. All of those groups need to work so closely together, particularly when we have weather events. We get a lot of activity in the call center. Safety and security needs to be closely linked with OCC when we have some sort of incident on our system. And so putting that all together in this place and putting it in a place where we're centralized, it's rather than on the edge of the district, but in a more central location to the district, all made sense to us. And as the general manager mentioned, that was a recommendation we've had previously. We also plan to bring in the rest of the operations folks from the nearby Holgate lease space, when that's demolished, into this building. So what we get out of that is a consolidated operations single-purpose building. We also get the benefit of renovations to that building. This is a very important aspect of this program and why it makes financial sense for Trimet. That building was opened in 1978, and it has a lot of failing systems inside of it that are very much in need of an update. By doing this as part of the Project Nexus created by expansion of OCC and demolition of Holgate allows this to be a grant-funded charge rather than a future general fund liability. So we eliminate a long-standing liability there by having it done as part of this program. So what happens then as a result of that is the administrative functions that are currently at Center Street need to go somewhere else. So they can't go to Holgate, obviously, because that's been demolished. So we took a look at our overall program and decided, since the Holiday Street lease was going to be up in a few years, why don't we take that Holiday Street group from the Lloyd Center area and combine it with the people at Center Street who have to be displaced by the change into Operations Command Center, and combine them in a lease space, and try to have a lease space that's a little bit closer to Center Street than the Holiday Street building is. That helps us a great deal with efficiencies. There's an awful lot of interactions with capital projects and the other divisions that we just have to spend time in inefficiencies moving back and forth between the facilities. Now all those can be together, and the interactions with operations are a little closer and along the future light rail line that will be constructed as part of the Milwaukee project. Again, most of that work can be charged to the grant because it's all related to the changes that are required as a result of Portland law. So that leads us, next slide please. And there's a picture of the Harrison Square building that's located at the corner of NATO and Harrison Street. And that's where the new office facility will be. This is a slide that just shows how the changes in the square footage of office space, both Trimet facilities and leased spaces. As you can see, we reduced our total footprint for office space by about 5,000 square feet. What we'll come to in a minute is the great benefit to the general fund of this. Over the next 10 years, the term of this lease, we actually saved the general fund $582,000 in lease expenses. So that's a benefit, as well as the efficiencies of bringing people together. That's a direct cost benefit to the project. Next slide. So there are 4 transactions before you as part of this program that we need to have to implement it. The first is a CMGC construction contract to do the renovations at Center Street. The board previously approved that as an exemption from low bidding so that we could use a CMGC approach, which is really very common, not only for us, but for other building owners. The board has used it and others. It's a really good method of doing this because when they get inside these buildings, they always find surprises, so it's a good thing to have the contractor and the designer working closely together. The next contract is to modify one of our on-call contracts to have some construction management expertise brought to this program. We will have people working on it, but we wanted to bring in some outside specialty help, somebody who's really, really gifted in the CMGC process in the setting of a building renovation. Really, capital projects doesn't do that quite as much. This is a small increase to the contract. I actually believe it'll make us money. They will help us be much more effective at negotiations. I believe they'll earn their own keep for this. The third transaction is for new systems furniture for both the renovated Center Street building and the leased Harrison Square building. This contract at first might look like it's something we could avoid. We actually did look at reuse of the existing furniture, but with having to disassemble it, store it, reassemble it, it's not free. It has a significant cost. It turns out new furniture was only a slight cost more. But the real benefit of this is the avoided cost. The new furniture will have us in much smaller cubes, much more efficient, much more open, collaborative workspace, more modern. Our stuff is over 20 years old, and it's just not the way collaborative office spaces work anymore. That smaller footprint actually saves us over $2 million in avoided costs because we require less lease space if we use that new furniture. So again, it earns its own keep very, very quickly. And then finally, the lease for the Harrison Square building. A lot of that is grant chargeable because it houses the capital projects function, which is currently working under grants. But even the part that's chargeable to the general fund, as I mentioned before, over the term of that lease is going to be $580,000 less than the status quo. So we believe financially this makes sense at each of these individual turns, and beyond the financial benefits, it certainly has terrific benefits in consolidating 4 group spaces down to 2 and increasing our collaborative work and efficiency. So with that, I'll stop and see if you have any questions either on this or specific transactions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Yes.
Dr. Bethel.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I looked at these contracts, and I think the proposal of bringing everything together is good. However, I have some concerns with Hoffman Construction. Hoffman has been around for a while and seems to do quite a bit of stuff for Trimet. I'm kind of disappointed at their DDE performance. I'm disappointed at the word being used, intends to. After being around as many years as Hoffman has and working on these projects, I would be expecting that their DDE program would be exceeding any of the other bidders that I see. And they're like 2 under the highest one, which was at least Crutcher and Lewis. So I have a great concern about that. I have a second great concern is I'm not sure totally what all was the evaluation as I see from the technical piece. and now they're being given a contract that's going to begin with the parking lot. I don't see how that's tying together with the total renovation of the building. It seems like it was a decision on one thing, and now there's going to be an add to. So coupled with all of that, and then another thing that is beginning to turn in my mind that will, not an answer now, but I would like for us to discuss later, would be, it's like, for instance, let me use Hoffman. If Hoffman does not meet its DBE, nor its internship numbers, I'm pretty sure there is a fine. What happens to that money? Does it go back and it's just, okay, we got it, or does it, since it did not achieve what it was supposed to achieve, is it somehow being funneled so that it's going into some type of program that is still achieving what the goal was, or is it getting absorbed someplace else? So a triple concern.
Okay, let me see if I can address all three of those, at least somewhat.
Okay.
As regards to the DBE program, like you, we believe they should and can do better. We have to evaluate based on what the proposal has for the various aspects, and they were marked down accordingly because they did not have as competitive a proposal in that area. As you know, particularly with the CMGC contracts, we can work with them very closely during the negotiations and the buildup of the actual full pricing to be able to improve that. And we will work hard to do that. As you know, we're very committed to getting good DBE numbers. We've been successful in most of our contracts in the past, even when they started out lower than we wanted. But we have to, the other side of that coin is we have to remain very true to the way we put the contracts out for bidding and follow those rules. And so that's what we did in this case. There are also some constraints on us because we have a race-neutral program. We do not actually have direct correlation point for point based on their proposal. We encourage them to give us as much participation as we can, and that does not end with the award of the contract. It only starts there. Now, the aspect you raised about the parking question, during the presentation I highlighted that as we expand 17th Avenue on the west side, we impact a lot of parking. And that parking is really, really important to the agency's function. And the key to understanding that is because people who are parking there are the operators from Center Street facility who can't take the bus there because they're coming in to drive the bus. So it's really important to us that we stage all that parking through construction to maintain it. We have worked out an exchange agreement with the Union Pacific Railroad to replace quite a bit of that parking that's on 17th back on the other side of the facility along what's now currently railroad property. And while that's about the same distance for our folks to get into the building, that's really important and it's vital to make this work to keep all of our folks from parking in the neighborhood. They obviously don't want that. They got plenty of impact already with construction. So we're trying to be very sensitive to that. So we've included the parking renovations as a part of this contract beyond just the building, because mainly for site controls, because it's all interrelated and it's all staged both together, building and parking. Your third question was about penalties for utilization. I believe the only specific financial penalties we have come when they do not meet the contract requirement for apprenticeship. And where that money would go, it would come back to Trimet and remain in the grant funds, since this is part of a grant-funded project. So it doesn't necessarily go to any specific purpose. It comes back to us to use for all of our purposes, including encouragement of apprentices.
Okay, I would like to have a further conversation sometime with the board and the staff regarding that.
Okay, happy to do that. I would also just note that, again, the score on DBE was sort of on a 10-point scale, but the actual commitment of Hoffman to DBE was a 25% commitment on the project, which was pretty good in terms of, and actually high compared to what many of our other proposals are. So they're not starting at the bottom, but I think, as Dan noted, we have the opportunity to work that out.
If I could, Dr. Bethel, I want to follow up on what you're saying, because I think it's really important that we are ready to embark on one of the largest public works, probably the largest public works project in the state of Oregon right, for the next few years.
More than ready. We have embarked.
Yeah, so we have embarked. So we're starting this. But But I think it's important that we as a board understand how our contractors, their subs, are performing in terms of not only utilization of DBEs or minority-owned contracts, but also I think the issue of the number of people of color and women in the workforce, both at the apprenticeship level and the journey level. I think if, and I have not worked with you before at this level, I think that, I don't know what your reporting system is, but I think a continual, update on whether it's a quarterly basis or something about how we're doing in these would be very important. I think just having that information available, recording it makes people a whole lot more accountable is what I figured out. So I think we should have some more discussions about that, and maybe you've already got a system in place that's going to do that, but I'd like to explore a little bit further. Maybe Dr. Bethel, you and I can chat some more about that, because I think there's an opportunity for us to just demonstrate our commitments and really help everybody do the right thing and just exceed everybody's expectations on this project. So I'm with you on that. So thoughts on that? Yes.
I've got a barrage of questions, mostly financial, Dan. And in regards to how much of what's the total cost of the move? The total cost of it. You mentioned a couple times that a significant portion of it's grant funded. What portion of it's grant funded? What portion is coming out of the general fund? And then you mentioned two savings numbers: the $500,000 number associated with the reduction in lease costs, and then you also mentioned a $2 million savings number. Can you explain? Actually, I gave you like 5 different questions, but
You see what
I'm sure you can handle it.
Maybe I'll go backwards. The savings numbers, the $580,000 savings in lease costs, is a comparison between the status quo of Holiday Street plus Holgate Street, extended out based on the current lease terms, 10 years, versus the lease of the Harrison Square building. So we just ran that out based on the terms of the 2 leases, and we found it to be a savings. The additional savings of $2 million comes from avoided cost. It's not true savings, it's just saying that we're buying that furniture, and that allows the Harrison Square lease to be $2 million less than it otherwise would be if we used the existing furniture, because we have to have more space to use that existing furniture.
So both of those are, in a sense, kind of hard costs that are primarily identifiable. Now, the other cost savings that, being in business we know exist is the cost savings of efficiencies. And those are the soft costs that are very difficult to wrap our minds around. But essentially, soft costs do exist, or soft savings do exist in regards to having the efficiencies in one location. But that number isn't something that we can really get our minds around, but those soft savings do exist.
You're absolutely right. We didn't attempt to quantify that because we wanted to make sure we had numbers that we could easily point to and say that's where we got the savings from. But I agree with you, there is additional savings above and beyond just due to the efficiencies. Your third question was, I think, the total package. So recognize some of this is true cost and some of this is budgetary. But the total, all these aspects together, including all the moves, all of the furniture, all of the leases, all the costs for parking in Center Street, all of that together represents approximately $20 million. The biggest piece of it, which is the renovation of the Center Street building, we don't have pricing on yet because we don't have design. That's the way the CMDC process works. Out of all of that, the part of the capital costs that are general funded is about $1 million. Most of that, about 3/4 of that, is the general fund share of the furniture to have that cost avoidance of $2 million down the road. Above and beyond all that are the lease costs. And so again, the lease cost roughly is about $10 million over the entire term of the lease.
So the $20 million you quoted includes the lease cost?
No,
it does not.
$20 million is the capital.
Is the capital cost, and how much of that is covered by the grant?
All but
The 19 and then all the $1 million. Excellent. Thank you.
Questions? Are we ready to take action? There's 4 resolutions, so we can approve these with one motion. So is there a motion to approve the 4 resolutions for this moving forward together package of contracts?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Any further discussion at this time? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, any abstentions, I should say, I missed that, I went through. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to our resolution number 2, which is resolution 12-06-60, authorizing a contract with Landscape Forms, Inc. for final design and fabrication of the station amenities for the Portland Milwaukee Light Rail Transit project. And I would note that this is a project we do have bid protest on, which maybe you folks can cover in your staff presentation.
We certainly can. Might also just
Go ahead. I'd like to perhaps suggest something.
Please.
120660 is going to take some time, so I've got questions.
Okay.
And you might, and I don't know how this would impact, and given that there's approximately about 10 more minutes before some of us are going to have to leave to go to do the City Hall presentation, would it be advantageous to do 6.1 and 6.2 and table 6.0 until later? I don't know the impact, but I know in 10 minutes, I'm not going to be worried until I have to vote on 0660.
I was going to suggest exactly the same thing. If there's no major issue, we can bring this back to your next business meeting.
And I'm very comfortable with that because I want to make sure we have time to answer questions. So is that okay with the rest of the board? So let's defer this item until the next meeting then? Okay. Is that okay? That's all right. So good. We'll just defer this one, take no action today. Okay. Let's move on to resolution number 3 then. This is resolution 12-06-61, which authorizes modification to contract with Stacy Whitbeck for the construction of the construction manager / general contractor services for the east segment of the Portland Milwaukee Light Rail project, which was scheduled earlier for adoption, but this was pulled to this date. So, Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, Mr. Board President, members of the board, again, speaking of deferrals, we did defer this one from your last agenda to this agenda. And as just to reiterate, the way that we have organized our construction contracts is a major contract on the west, major contract on the east, and a bridge contract for the Portland Milwaukee. This is the major contract now for the east that we're paying for from the bridge all the way down to the Oak Grove area. So it's a very big scope of work. And what we've been doing is essentially building the CMGC contract in layers. So really schedule-sensitive and affordable work were advanced first in modifications 1 and 2, and we are now here to you with modification number 3 for other schedule-sensitive work. And again, it follows the approval of the full funding grant agreement. I'm pleased to report that the CMGC price, actually, we've been working on this since you last saw this at your last meeting, but the actual CMGC price is now very much in line with the Trimet independent cost estimate and is within our budget parameters. The total cost and the key areas of work that are authorized are the aerial structures, work with the freight railroad and light rail trackway, an allowance for early civil work construction, and some general items. And again, the contractor will be very busy this year, this week, and we would hope to come back to you in September with a full wrap of the CMGC price for this big east contract. And so that will be the total contract price available to you at that point in time. But this is another mod that allows the work to progress, that is schedule sensitive. And again, we have a very good result in terms of pricing. Also in terms of DBE scope and percentage on this contract as well. Some very good work on the part of Stacy and Whitback to incorporate all of that. Dan is here to answer questions, should you have any, and we certainly recommend approval.
Questions of the General Manager, Mr. Walker? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve this item?
I move resolution 12-06-61.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. And our last resolution today is resolution 12-06-62, authorizing Trimet to acquire by purchase or by the exercise of eminent domain certain real property necessary for the construction of the Portland Milwaukee Light Rail project. Mr. General Manager.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is for a single property in the Milwaukee area, and per your direction to us, properties that do require residential relocation, full take in this case, will come to you for individual consideration, and that is one of these situations. This property is needed in central Milwaukee area. The maps associated with the resolutions are noted to you. We do need the property for the construction of the project, and the timeline does call for us to begin to act on that fairly soon. Again, offers have been made and are out, and we are in discussions with the property owner. This will, I believe, help advance those discussions. Our hope is, and our desire and our goal is willing seller, willing buyer by the time we get to the end of this process. And we'll continue through a whole series of other efforts to try to reach agreement. With that, I'd have to either answer any questions, but we do recommend it.
Any questions? General Manager? Okay, well, do I hear a motion to approve this resolution?
So move adoption, resolution 120662.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second. Great. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, this motion is approved unanimously. And I would say to staff, nice job on the maps and exhibits. We're getting very good at being able to understand where they are, what you're purchasing. Okay, so we're a little before what we said we needed to do for ending the formal business meeting, and with that, the meeting is officially adjourned, and there will be no further consideration of business items before the board today. However, we want to get to the public forum, and what I explained before is the general manager, at least myself, need to go to City Hall to be able to move forward and address the issue of the student passes. I guess I'm wondering if there's an ability for maybe the 3 remaining commissioners to hear the remainder of the public testimony.
I was just told that there's a number of people testifying on other items ahead of us, so you could probably take a few more minutes.
Okay, well, let's do that. Thank you very much. Well, why don't we start? We have 7 people signed up, and I think those of you who have done this before know that we have a strict 3-minute time limit on all the issues. And if you're just up reaffirming what somebody else has said, just please say you agree with that other speaker. The reason I say it is I see 7 of the 7 people. There's 2 folks who've signed up without affiliation, and there's 5 who signed up indicating their affiliation with Opal. So if you're all giving that same message from Opal, we'd love to see that consolidated.
President Warner, 3 of the speakers who have signed up to speak for Opal will defer and speak at the next board meeting.
Okay.
We'd rather speak to it.
Okay. Thank you. I understand that. Thank you.
That would be Teresa Soto, Jared Braun, and Karen Coleman.
Okay, you're going to help me when we get to, we'll call it, you tell me which ones, all right? All right, good. So why don't we start? We have Chris Walker first, says he'd like to talk to us about lift passes.
Sit down.
Chris, do you see the microphone set up over here? Maybe you can get them. Okay, I'll look right there for you. Good.
I'm just wondering, would it be possible, let me sketch out a situation. So with most SSI checks, they direct deposit them around roughly the first of the month. Now, if the first of the month is on a weekend or a Friday, sometimes we don't hear or get a statement until Monday or Tuesday of the next week, whether that pass has been, or whether that check has been okay enough to put funds toward a pass. And with the $10 increase, it really affects people, their money in the account. And so I'm wondering if it would be possible to draft some sort of resolution or issue to help people who have this issue with SSI and bank accounts out to, because I know that there's like most drivers are okay, but there are sectors of people that might not have these sort of rights. So just I think that's an important issue to consider.
Thank you, Chris. That's an interesting issue. I've not heard that. I don't think we need to respond right at the moment, but I think
We'll look into
we'll look into that, and there may be something we have available now that I don't know about. But your point is well taken, Chris. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Next up, Michael Labonte.
Okay, yeah, turn on channel 3.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good morning. I'll do away with the niceties and try to get right to it since we have time constraints.
Thank you.
I have several issues. I'm going to go through them rather quickly. I hope there might be a question or two when I'm through. First of all, I know you're going next door to talk to the council due to the testimony that the mayor has done on TV, print, etc. I've got to say that I believe that his accusations are probably true. I know over the years, we, the disability community, have been dealing with mistruths, etc. A quick example, there was an agreement between the city Trimet and the disability community on all max extensions, including the ones being worked on now, that there would be yellow tactile no warning strips on platforms. Everything I've seen and been told so far, Trimet's planning to continue with white. And just an FYI, the entire West Coast, except for Trimet, uses yellow tactile no warning strips on all rail platforms. Amtrak, Tacoma, Seattle, the entire state of California state law, we're the only ones that don't. The disability community's been telling Trimet for years, we want yellow. There are other issues besides just the students, and I'm not trying to take away from the students. That's a real problem. If our children can't get to school, what's the future going to be for this country? At the same time, when this is going to be addressed today, what are you doing for people with disabilities? These are some of the same issues I brought up in the past. They weren't being brought up again, as the mayor seemingly has a program in place to assist students. Where is anything to assist people with disabilities? You're still pricing people with disabilities off of paratransit service. You're changing the boundaries, thus you're taking service away from people with disabilities. Their only means of transportation, again, Lyft paratransit service. Who are the people that use Lyft paratransit service? Not just people with disabilities, but the most severely, I hate to use the word disabled, handicapped, but that's what you're doing to them. You're making them into handicapped people. What are you going to do to stop that? I wish you would go over to Geldman Field. I complained that the MAX trains do not make exterior announcements, which I'm sure you all are aware that exterior announcements are mandated by the FTA. Please bear with me for a minute. I know time constraints and I'm skipping over a lot of stuff. But this is one that you can go and see, and this has been a long time issue. Instead of activating the external announcements on MAX trains, staff has chosen to activate the audio portion of Transit Tracker, which we've been asking to be done throughout the entire system for years. It works, by the way, folks. That's a positive. But the reason it was done is a negative. You still are not making announcements for all people with disabilities that need exterior announcements. The Transit Tracker announcement, at best, with nobody on the platform, covers 20% of the platform. You have ambient noise on that platform. If you're not standing right underneath the Transit Tracker screen, which is where the audio comes from, you still do not know what train is pulled up on the platform. Every other platform in the entire Trimet system has external announcements. You can hear from one end of the platform to the other end of the platform what train pulled up. Can't do it at Geldman Field. Needs to be done. It's the law. And also, please go listen to the audio portion of the Transit Tracker and add it to your entire system. It does work. It should be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, now, so if the local folks can help me here, so why don't you just come up and tell me who you are, and rather than make me call you, okay?
I'm just here for some.
Okay, you can do that.
All my life, I've grown up on and with Trimet. Partially because my autism spikes my interest in Trimet by, 100,000%? Partially because it's been an integral part of my life. I have so many memories throughout my years that revolve around the bus. It's always been a part of my life, and looking back, I've noticed that even as my childhood memories are fuzzy, the best transit trips I'll never forget. When I was 4, I vividly remember riding the bus through North Portland on the Line 5 on Interstate before the MAX was even there, with my mom to take her to her night shift at Jansen Beach and back to the Fort to stay with my aunt for the night. I remember that even though I was tired, I loved traveling on the buses, especially when we got one of those new fancy ones with the low floors.
Hello?
This is the Trimet meeting.
Hello?
This isn't coming out of my time, is it?
Just unfortunate.
All right. I remember riding one of those buses on our way to Chuck E. Cheese in Beaverton on my cousin's birthday, and I was barely going to the place itself. You could not get me to stop yammering about how excited I was to be on V-Line 54 with one of the new buses. When I was 6 years old, I rode the streetcar for the first time in its first year to play in Jameson Springs, or whatever that is, during the summer of Pearl. Hello. To get back downtown, we took the 17th from Everett, which is a 1988 Flixbus still running in 2000. Not much has changed. We have brand new MAX trains and half a fleet still from the 90s. I have all sorts of funny memories on the bus as well. When I was 10 in 5th grade, I started riding the bus by myself from school at Lentz, home in Southwest Portland. On the last day of school, I carried a garbage bag that contained the entire contents of my desk in it. When I went to transfer from one bus to the other, the bag split right up in the middle of 6th and Salmon, where I realized that keeping my box of Skittles within the bag was not my brightest idea. Today, riding transit is still a big source of inspiration. Sometimes I just go to places I haven't been before and take pictures. Forest Grove, 12th, Oregon City. I'm going to SDK after this meeting is over, as a matter of fact, because it's summer and I wonder why I have the chance. There are times I'll just ride the MAX at night and listen to some music and let my mind wander. I've come up with many writing pieces waiting on or for riding the bus. With time to spare, the operators have inspired me as well. There's John Hively, a kind-spirited and intelligent man who inspired me to truly write. Janet was a gloriously talkative woman, young beyond her years, who inspired me to become an activist. There's Al Margulies, the infamous outspoken gentleman, one of your worst nemesis, who inspired me never to give up and pull no punches. Some of the greatest people I've met are your very own operators and your very own writers. I get lots of people who ran on the buses compliment me on this little Luigi right here. And the teenagers are a lot better than people give them credit for. They're mostly very polite, or they'll just comment on my jacket, so I might be a little bit biased on that front. I grew up on the bus, though, and I'll be 18 in July. From there, I'm unsure where I stand. Odds are the bus will be too unaffordable for it to be useful to me. Sometimes I swear I could ride all day, but of course, when you've grown up, it isn't that easy. That's what I've been told, and I wasn't eager to believe it at first, but it turns out it looks to be right. Life is short, but some memories, good or bad, survive every moment of it. It leaves a legacy far beyond what is done for many to see and learn from. And I am dismayed to state that Trimet is heading down that road itself as an agency, taking so many wrong turns, making so many reckless and inconsiderate mistakes, that sometimes it feels beyond redemption. I don't feel confident that my words will fall on listening ears, but that I will even be remembered by the time I get up from here. I never am certain of that. But I hope this warning leaves a memory for you. If you continue this path, Trimet itself will be nothing but a page in the memory books, and your legacy will be the ones who ran it to the grave. And I ask you, Mr. McFarland, board members, executives, can you live comfortably with that legacy?
And you're Cameron, right? You're Cameron, right?
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. Just want to make sure we got that, so thank you.
Mr. President is what we nicknamed him.
Okay, all right, good. So other members from Opal like to speak today? Over here. Please come up and state your name for us so we know who you are.
Good morning, Trimet board members. I'm Kashta Andrade Booker, age 15. I attend David Douglas High School, and I'm here representing the youth members, including myself, who use Trimet as a way to get around. For example, my peers and I witness people asking for a quarter or two from my school so they can get where they need to go. I myself struggle to gather change for my personal recreational time. I take the bus line 4, 8, 9, 17, and 72 to go to Holgate Library, Mount Scott Community Center, my grandma's house, who lives in Northeast Portland, and my friends. Lately, I've been walking to where I need to be. I would ride my bike, but it was stolen, so I depend on Trimet even more for my transportation. But it doesn't look too promising at the rate you are proposing. I thank you for the $1 million to help those in need, but it's not enough for all people who depend and can't afford to pay more. So I ask you not to raise the fare. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for coming. So, was there one other member, Jared, that wanted to speak? Or was
There
that
is the best one first.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your willingness to wait, and I'm sorry that we have to cut this short, but I do appreciate your continuing patience on this. So thank you very much with that. Unless there's anything else the board would like to say, I think we will wrap this session up. All right. Thank you very much.